and welcome to GNY Sports, a side quest of Good News York. I'm your host, Mike Brindisi. You can follow me on all socials at Mike B TV. GNY Sports, a side quest of Good News York. If you like this and you like Good News York, you can find this show as well as Good News York itself on all social platforms, on our YouTube channel, goodnewsyork.com, and at Good News York. Now, it is close to Halloween. I didn't dress up the set for Halloween. Maybe I should have. I'm wearing a flannel. I don't know. Does that count? One thing I did do is come up with a Halloween-themed segment, and I didn't do it on purpose because I said the words to myself, QB Resurrection, and that made me think of Sam Darnold and Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones crawling out from the graveyard. And I went, oh, that's kind of a Halloween theme. Let's go with it. And that's exactly what I want to talk about. What we are seeing is not just one quarterback, not just two quarterbacks, not three. We're talking about four different quarterbacks who are not only having a resurgence, but look like completely different players. Let's start with the obvious. What Daniel Jones is doing right now is absolutely insane. Now, I could easily point to the Giants and say, well, it's pretty clear. Daniel Jones played in New York, had flashes of brilliance, but mostly was as mediocre as he sounds when he speaks. No offense. I mean, come on. He knows that. He has not only resurrected his career, he is leading the best offense and the best team in the NFL right now in the Indianapolis Colts. So it is very easy to say, oh man, well, pretty clear. The Giants suck. Saquon Barkley was doing okay. He left. He had a record-breaking season. Daniel Jones leaves, goes to Indy. Suddenly he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But I can't blame it completely on the New York Giants or the coaching staff because, again, it's happening with Darnold. It's happening with Geno, and it's been happening with Baker. Shane Steichen's system is a system that is working very well for Daniel Jones. A couple things he has going for him, a really good offensive line, and a running game that's working. Now, he had Saquon Barkley in New York, or New Jersey, as I say, but that necessarily wasn't working because the offensive line was just, the Giants have drafted linemen for like the last 10 years, and the line seems to never get better. So what Daniel Jones is doing is a product of great coaching in Shane Steichen, but more importantly, the offensive coordinator and the system that he is in. I mean, what Jonathan Taylor's doing right now, you could argue he's in the running for NFL MVP. You could argue Daniel Jones is in the running for NFL MVP. It's too early for that. But my point is, it just goes to show you how many quarterbacks along the way that we thought were cooked. And turns out they're not. They're actually really good quarterbacks. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong system, maybe even wrong coaching. There's so many different factors that go into it. But I just am so impressed with the way Daniel Jones is playing. A great running game, great offensive line. He's making quick decisions. He's going through his progressions, making the right reads. It's really impressive to watch. On that note, look at Sam Darnold. Now, this has been going on. Sam Darnold goes to the Jets. And, well, we know how that worked out. Then he goes to I think he went to the Panthers after that, and he played with Baker, by the way, which I'll talk about that in a second. Goes from the Panthers to the 49ers, which I think Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy played a hand in his development there. Then he goes to Minnesota and plays lights out up until the playoff game in which he fell apart. Now, the NFL is a what have you done for me lately kind of league. So I think once Darnold kind of had that pedestrian playoff game and kind of looked like the Darnold from the Jets, it was easy to write him off and say, oh, yeah, good coaching, Kevin O'Connell, a good system. But, Sam Darnold's colors shined through. Well, guess what? Sam Darnold is now in Seattle, and he is playing at the same level he was playing at, if not better, than he was in Minnesota. It is just incredible. Now, the other guy I want to talk about is Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith is struggling a bit, but you have to understand that Geno Smith is now on the Las Vegas Raiders with his longtime coach, which I thought was a great idea. That is a great idea. Let's marry the coach and the quarterback together that had some decent success in Seattle. So I like that aspect of it. But I'm giving a little bit of a free pass to Geno and Pete Carroll because of the situation they're in. They're on the ground floor of a rebuild. I know there was a lot of hype off season, like, oh, they could really challenge the Chiefs. Look, they're definitely they're turning the corner and heading in the right direction with the right coaching and some of the pieces they have, but I think they're a ways off, especially in that division. So, I give Geno a free pass, and I'll include him in this because another guy that went to the Jets and did not do so well, and then has a complete resurgence in Seattle with Pete Carroll. And then finally, my boy Baker. My boy Baker. And I say my boy because I got to tell you, I used to hate that man. And I'll get into that in a second. But I couldn't stand him. But I dare say I've become a fanboy. Baker Mayfield. First of all, Baker, it's tough for me to say he's having a resurrection because I never thought that he didn't play well. He started in Cleveland, another quarterback graveyard. He started in Cleveland, and like any rookie, had some ups and downs. Nothing out of the ordinary. But he also took them to their first playoff game in I don't know how long, and they won. They beat the Steelers, who the Steelers have been the cream of the crop of that division for decades. Not consistently, it's changed over time, but the Steelers are regarded as one of the best franchises in football. A couple of things that all of these guys have in common is they started off in really shitty organizations that were in really, really shitty situations. And to be fair, if you are going to get drafted, high in the top 10, chances are you're going to a team that most of the time is just not in good shape, or an organization that's not in good shape. So, that's kind of an obvious factor. But, man, can you imagine being the Cleveland Browns and watching Baker Mayfield right now? Can you imagine being the New York Jets and watching what Geno Smith is, how he's progressed? And now seeing how Sam Darnold is consistently a great quarterback over the last few seasons? What does that tell you? It tells you a couple things. You didn't put him in the right situation with the right coaches and or the right system. It also tells me that these guys were let go way too soon. I think in society right now, we're in a very, let's scroll through, I want immediate answers, immediate results. I go back to the RG3 Andrew Luck seasons. These guys came in the league as quarterbacks, highly touted, took their teams to playoffs early in the career. That's not normal. And we're seeing it happen more and more. And that, to me, is a product of how the college football systems have evolved. And they're very much, especially in like the SEC and your Power 5 conferences, they're running pro-like systems. And so these guys are coming in much more prepared. So it's a little bit of that. But at the same time, we've gotten away from this let them develop. They let Darnold go. The Jets let Darnold go too soon. The Browns certainly let Baker Mayfield go too soon. I know there was an injury concern. And then to make matters worse, they made the worst trade of all time for Deshaun Watson and probably the worst contract of all time. So, that is a whole mess. But the bottom line is we need to let these quarterbacks develop because we're seeing some guys go. And this should give hope to any quarterback out there. Your J.J. McCarthy's off the top of my head. Your guys that maybe are having a rocky start but show flashes. Give them some time and certainly make sure they are in the right position as far as with the right coaching and can be developed. So shout out Zombie QB Resurrection Halloween theme, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield. Just incredible. And as a football fan, I love it. I love to see it. And I had a realization the other day, by the way. Baker Mayfield. I was watching, what was it? Today's Thursday. I was watching Monday, I think it was Monday Night Football. And it was the Bucs. And I started realizing as I'm watching the game how much I'm enjoying watching Baker Mayfield. But I don't mean like, oh, it's really fun to watch him. I mean like when I hear he's going to be on in prime time, I can't wait. I'm excited that day. If I'm watching highlights and they say, now to the Tampa Bay Bucs and Baker Mayfield, I'm turning my head and I'm paying extra attention. I went, Jesus, am I a fan? I think I am. And I went, as a Bills fan, why am I having such fanhood for not only a different team, but a different player? And the reason is what's not to love? Now, when Baker Mayfield came out, I couldn't stand him because all we saw, the media portrayed him as the guy that grabbed his crotch, in the Oklahoma game to the other sideline, and he was a shit talker. He was a college kid. You gotta remember he was a college kid. But as time went on, he kind of stopped with all the nonsense when he got to the NFL. He put his head down, and he started playing. And instead of using his mouth, he was using his arm and his legs and winning, even in Cleveland. But I remember the moment it happened. Actually, the moment I fell in love with Baker Mayfield but didn't want to admit it is when he did the Favre reenactment picture. When Baker Mayfield was heading into the draft, he reenacted this famous picture of Brett Favre in his bedroom on the phone with all his friends. I mean, but not only did he reenact it, he nailed it. Every detail of the picture was reenacted. It was hilarious. It was awesome. I should have loved him then, but then my bias was like, no, he's a prick. Can't like that. But the moment I started to turn as a football fan and become a Baker fan was that Rams game. If you remember, and I barely remember, so bear with me, but he had left Cleveland, and the LA Rams had an injury at quarterback, and essentially, picked up Baker off of his couch, flies in, doesn't even know the playbook. They kept it simple, just basic plays, and he lit it up. He was awesome. And I thought, man, this guy's kind of a fucking baller. That was badass to go in and do that in the NFL. And then the rest is history. He makes his way around, he keeps winning. And he gets to Tampa Bay, and my God, that offense is what I wish Josh Allen and the Bills looked like. He's surrounded by talent. He's got great coaching there. And he just has this grit that you cannot coach and you cannot teach. It's almost like he took that cockiness and just turned it into being great, into grit and being tough. I mean, he's physically tough. The guy can take a hit. But he can actually, yes, he's no Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen with his legs, but he still can scramble, and he does it when he needs to. He doesn't rely on it. He's a hell of a passer. He's had back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons. I mean, with the Browns, he had 3,000-yard seasons in his first couple years. He plays tough. He's decisive. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's got a bullet. And he knows how to spread the ball around, and he can extend plays. I love him. I apologize, Baker Mayfield. Again, you don't know I exist, but I know you exist. And I went from zero to hero in my book, man. You are fun to watch. You're a hell of a quarterback, and you're funny. By the way, all that cockiness has now turned into comedy for me. He's found a way to play it right, to where he's less of a dick and more just funny. Which I had a friend, my friend Bobby, studied sports psychology. There it is. My friend Bobby studied sports psychology in college. And at my bachelor party in Nashville, we were all staying at this house, and we got in this big debate about players that were too cocky. And he made a point to me that stuck with me, which was, there are players that are really cocky, but there's this line, and you have to be cocky, but you have to be confident and a little bit arrogant if you're a pro athlete. Because if you walk onto the field or the court or the ice or the whatever it is you do, and you don't believe you're great, or you don't believe you're the best player out there or one of, you've already been defeated mentally. And that really stuck with me. And that's what I see in guys like Baker Mayfield. So, Bake, you're the man. Something else that is going on right now are the NFL fall meetings. This is where player representatives and owners all meet and they discuss rule changes, things to improve the game. I always love that about the NFL. Every league in every sport, for the most part, work towards evolving as a sport and, working on rule changes for player safety and to make the game better and more interesting. But I feel like the NFL does it more consistently than any other league. And right now I heard something that was really, really interesting. They are talking about how they can make the onside kick either more successful or just change it up. Because right now its success rate is just abysmal. And it doesn't help that the new kickoff, the dynamic kickoff, is showing like a 70-something% success rate. So now it's kind of making it force them to go, well, look at the success rate of the dynamic kick as compared to onside. And we all know, if you've been watching football as a football fan, the onside kick, you're like, this is definitely not going to work. But I think where they shot themselves in the foot with the onside kick, to make matters worse, is that they made it so that you have to declare that you're doing the onside kick. So one of my first ideas to make this a success or more successful, how about this? Make it so that you can do an onside kick anytime, anywhere, and you don't have to tell the other team, so that maybe you'll catch them off guard. The onside kick, while it's exciting that it's an option, it's never exciting when they do it, because 9.5 times out of 10, it's not going to work. So what can we do? I have a couple ideas. One, the easy one, like I said, you can declare, you don't have to tell the other team when you're doing the onside kick. What about this one? What if the kicker kicks the ball to a returner, but it's 1v1, baby? Almost like a shootout. The kicker has to chase this guy down and tackle him. Option 2, the dream of a lifetime. You may remember the old rolled gold commercials. Yeah, you pick one lucky fan, okay, that comes in the game for the onside kick. If they recover it, not only does your team get possession, you get free season tickets for I would say a lifetime at that point. And then the only other thing I can think of, and this is actually a real one, is the alternative that the NFL and the players have come up with, which is a possibility of a 4th and 15 where the team starts at the 25-yard line. So you could do an onside kick, or you can decide to do a 4th and 15 from your 25-yard line. If you convert it, obviously you keep the ball and continue. If you do not, then the other team takes over where the ball was blown dead. The problem, I kind of like that. I know for the conservative part of me says, oh, what are we doing? And then the liberal part of me, the progressive part of me says, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. How can I not? You're going from a pretty much guaranteed it's not going to work to, hey man, this is a real possibility to keep this game alive. Now, the reason I'm leaning more towards the progressive idea is because more than ever, the NFL and these games are coming down to the last 2 minutes. It's almost like college basketball or basketball in general. I don't know what has, the game's evolved now to where it just seems like it's Mahomes, it's Allen, it's Lamar, it's Justin Herbert. It's whoever with the game of Jackson Dart against the Broncos, right? Or Bo Nix against the Giants in that game, where it's coming down to the last second, which is awesome, right? We love that as fans. So why not just put a little cherry on top? And so because it's coming down to these last seconds, let's add in another play that makes it more realistic that it could happen. But it's also tough to convert. 4th and 15 is hard to convert, even if you are a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, especially from your own 25. It's a risk. Now, the problem I have with it is, I've looked it up, when can you do this? Because I feel like if you can just, instead of kicking the ball off after a score, okay, if you can say, nope, we want to go with a 4th and 15. So what? It's like the first quarter, 4 minutes in, and someone scores and they go, nope, we're going to keep going for it. And they score again. And then they go, we're not going to kick it off. We're going to go for the 4th and 15. And they get it again. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that's football. If you don't want them to get it, stop them. And they probably will. I think it would be impossible to just consistently through the whole game maintain possession. But I feel like I either didn't find the caveat or there needs to be one. I don't know if it's got to be within under 5 minutes or under 3 minutes that they can do in the fourth quarter where they can enact this rule. Maybe that's where they go with it. But either way, no matter what happens, I like the idea that they are trying to figure it out. So I'm a gigantic Bills fan, but I'm a football fan more than anything. And anything that makes the game better, I like. Speaking of owners and players, whoa, what the fuck is going on with the beef, the shit talking? You saw it this past week, right? You had Woody Johnson basically just throwing Justin Fields under his awful losing bus. You had Sean Payton, who very stealthily and crafted an insult, a dig at Russell Wilson in a press conference, which was, he did it so well that there's a debate in sports media on whether it really was a dig or not. It was. And then, of course, you have Tua, who consistently, over the last few weeks, has just been an open book of vomiting all of their dirty laundry to the press and to the public. He, a couple weeks ago, threw his players under the bus for not showing up to player meetings or coming late. Recently, he Mike McDaniels, who I have no idea how that guy's not fired. Dude, again, he looks like he should be selling flavored vapes at a bodega. And now he sounds like it. I mean, the guy's just not making any sense. That's a whole other story. I feel bad for Dolphins fans. I mean, what are we doing? Part of me's like, dude, this is so unprofessional. As you got an owner doing it, a coach doing it, and a player doing it. So you've got all three phases in 1 week. Part of me says, again, this is unprofessional. Why would you do that? It's a black eye on the organization. And then part of me loves it. Because the one thing I can't stand is owner, player, or coach speak. And what do I mean by that? This. Well, we went out there and, we just got out-coached, outplayed. We didn't execute in all three phases of the game. It's you got to do your one of 11, right? You're one of 11 players out there. That, right? That kind of coach speak or player speak, or the owner who says, well, listen, I have complete faith in this team. We're going to turn it around. You don't learn by winning. You learn by losing. You just it gets old and it gets stale. And I get that they have to do it to maintain the professionalism that I'm talking about. But man, I'm kind of liking this WWE thing. Sean Payton going after Russell shooting back. Russell Wilson, who's known for being straight-laced off the field. I think he's a complete phony. Sorry, I do. I mean, obviously, what he's doing off the field as far as charity and things like that, I would never knock that. I think that's wonderful, and I think that is sincere. But his whole, I'm not telling you something you don't know. When you hear him speak, and he's got that fake smile, and hey, I just don't think negatively. I don't think negatively. It's phony. And Sean Payton saw through that. And you saw him and Sean Payton going at it on the sidelines. You saw them battling, and he shouldn't have liked him because he saw right through it. Sean Payton is known for being brash. Listen to interviews with former players. They're like, I'm not surprised. That's how Sean is. But to do it publicly is a whole different thing. As far as Russell Wilson goes, as much as I think he's a phony, I do think it was a low blow by Sean Payton. So it's crazy. And as far as Woody Johnson goes, like, Woody, whoa, dude. First of all, I think what you're trying to do in basically calling out Justin Fields is protect your new coach. But your track record tells me different, man. I think you're protecting yourself. Because at this point, after all of the QBs that have come there and died there on the field, not literally, figuratively, and gone other places and succeeded, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, after all the poor coaching hires you've made, I don't think you're doing this to protect Aaron Glenn. I think you're doing this to protect yourself and saying, no, I hired the right guy. I totally did. I just, it's the quarterback. It's terrible either way. You cannot, as an owner, come out and just like we said with the other guys, throw any sort of shade or throw your coaches or players under the bus. It's unprofessional. But if you think about it, the Jets have been unprofessional for years as an organization, and it starts with Woody Johnson. Look at not even the quarterbacks. Look at Robert Saleh. Goes back to the Niners as a coordinator. He's crushing it. Now, I get it. Not every coordinator can be a great coach, but I don't think Robert Saleh was a bad coach by any means. In fact, they won a lot. They won a fair amount of games with Robert Saleh. So, if you're seeing coaches succeed elsewhere, players succeed elsewhere, who's left to blame? The owner. You tool. It's like Woody Johnson doesn't care. And when you come out and you trash your fairly young quarterback for going through the same things that every other quarterback has been through that's been there, you got to look inward, brother. And by the way, you brought Justin Fields there. It's shit. It's shitty. It's shitty. So this beef between coaches, players, and owners, as much as I love it, WWE style as a fan, it's pretty unprofessional. Interesting. Oh, yes. Couple other things. Man, I want to talk about, and it's old news by now, but whatever. I shoot once a week. Shohei Ohtani's performance in the playoffs is, I could sit here for hours and debate, what is that up against as like one of the greatest sports performances of all time? All the media is talking about it now. The dude gets 3 home runs, strikes out 10 players, and I think gives up 2 hits, something like that. Either way, not only was he dominant as a hitter, he was dominant as a pitcher. We have not seen that. I mean, we hear about Babe Ruth, and we hear about all these great players. We hear about Don Larson, right? Game 7 of the World Series as a Yankee. Pitches a perfect game in Game 7 of the World Series. That's tough to beat. You remember crazy moments like Aaron Boone in the ALCS. You remember Tom Brady coming back 28-3 in the Super Bowl. Kirk Gibson's home in the Dodgers, Game 6 or whatever it was. He hits the home run as he's limping. You remember that stuff. But as far as like pure dominance, it doesn't get better. And he's an ace at both. It's absolutely incredible. 3 home runs, 10 strikeouts, and 2 hits in one game. It's nuts, man. I mean, I don't know what you can compare it to, but all I know is that if you are watching baseball and you are a fan, no matter what team, watch it, enjoy it, drink it in. Because you hear, I heard my grandfather tell stories, again, about like Don Larson's perfect game, how he saw that. And we hear stories about, I was at the game where, so-and-so hit 5 home. We are living in a time where we can say, I watched Shohei Ohtani play. He might surpass Babe Ruth as the greatest of all time. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth regarding any player. But I think I'm in a position now where it's very fair. That was absolutely insane. Like, absolutely insane. Lastly, we had a guest on Good News York a couple weeks ago, and after we were done shooting, they were talking about Syracuse women's basketball and women's basketball in general, college and WNBA, and how, there's been the struggles with attendance. And I just kind of, as I was tearing things down from the shoot, I just kind of shot an idea out to these guys, and I went, why don't they double up and offer ticket packages, whether it's WNBA or college, where they do a doubleheader, men's basketball, and you stick around and watch women's basketball for free, or whatever. You split the revenue of the ticket, but the point is, you can figure that out. That's not my job. My point is, I think I thought of a pretty decent idea if it hasn't been thought of already. I think schools and in the pros need to start offering some sort of double header where men's basketball plays and immediate following you get women's basketball. It's worth a shot at this point, right? I mean, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all these stars in the WNBA can only do so much for attendance, and the WNBA can only do so much as a league. I think it's good marketing, because even if 15 fans stay afterwards, maybe 7 of those fans or all 15 end up going, man, now that I saw it live, I'm kind of a fan of this team. And it starts building and building. I'm not going to get into the discussion of should they be paid as much as the guys and this and that. I mean, there's a whole business element of it that factors in. But I will say there are small things we can do. It's like the same thing with NFL and the injuries, right? The small things we can do, how about we get rid of turf in Allstate and go to grass? Like, that's a simple thing we can start with. Let's go to natural grass. I know, again, there's business involved. But if I'm sitting here thinking about it, there's no reason why these leagues shouldn't start thinking about it. So, a step in the right direction for the WNBA might be, let's piggyback off of the men's basketball games and see if we can get some fans to stick around and build it that way. With that, I will say, oh, geez, wrong one. I will, all right, forget it. I will say, farewell. Happy Halloween. I mean, we're going to do another episode before Halloween, but thank you for tuning in to GNY Sports. I'm your host, Mike Brindisi. Follow me on all social media at MikeBTV. If you like GNY Sports, it's a side quest of our show, Good News York. So you can find GNY Sports on all the same social channels as Good News York at Good News York. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.